Hi guys. Today we are learning how to manage, control, and reduce triggers and emotional trigger responses. So triggers are probably one of the most difficult things to handle, and this is because they are an internal issue to manage. Now, it's hard to know that a trigger is not truly real and what we are perceiving is not real. And that is why it is so difficult to control. It creates impulsive responses, regretful reactions, and these things can then bring out shame once the situation is over, or immediately when it comes out of our mouth, or the physical response has happened. Now, physical threats can be debunked. We can be spooked or scared and then realize, oh, that's not actually a threat. Whereas emotional threats are always real because we are truly experiencing the emotion on an emotional level, which is always happening or real in the moment. Now, this is because emotions are essentially resurfacing from past traumatic events, and this is why it's a trigger or emotional flashback. And when this happens, we begin to have physiological responses, and that is why we then act on them very impulsively. So it's because the body is pumping adrenaline and cortisol into the system, and it actually puts pressure on you to react, and it really feels like the time has actually sped up and that we have to act in order to preserve ourselves and protect ourselves from the perceived threat. And the emotion mind is much stronger than the rational mind, so it will overpower and cause the reactions that take place during a trigger. So an example of why this happens is like if we're walking through the forest and we run into a bear or a cougar and we see it, our adrenaline and cortisol comes because we feel we have to get out of there alive, and all rationality, morals, ways we wish to behave and control ourselves go out the door because you want to escape alive and safely. So this causes us to have a fight or flight response, and this is the part of the brain that comes into effect when we are triggered. This is why triggers are so hard. So I'm going to explain how to fully observe a trigger so that we can then implement the exercise of breathing that I will then explain. Now we're going to learn how to observe the trigger in the moment. We must learn to observe triggers in order to reduce and slow down the response time and the type of response that comes out. We need to retrain the system by using the breathing exercise that I will then explain in order to control what happens in the moment. We have to notice the biological reactions that are happening. This is one of the first things that will kind of like tell you you're being triggered because, as I mentioned before, it's on an emotional level. So sometimes we don't even know what's happening or why we're feeling the way we are, and then the perception blurs. So the biological reactions could be anything from your heart rate speeding up. This is pretty much across the board. Your heart rate's going to speed up because of that adrenaline and cortisol. You could feel a burning or a tightening of the chest. Your stomach could start feeling sick, butterflies. If you notice yourself maybe going into an arms crossed or crossed legs position, it can be a subconscious way that you're protecting yourself, creating that kind of boundary. And it could be your whole body tightening up, basically anything that is creating a pressure to react. Is there an internal dialogue happening? This is a very crucial part of observing a trigger as well, because our mind also begins to start protecting us. And this internal dialogue can be something like cussing at the person, finding them very bad and evil in the moment, feeling like they're criticizing you, feeling like they're attacking you, like they don't understand you. It could be that you're basically going into black and white thinking or splitting. And any internal dialogue that is protecting you from the person or wanting to attack the person, it can be also attacking yourself or the other. Most of the time it's going to be attacking the other, but sometimes the shame does come right back to you and create this subconscious feeling that you are being attacked because you are a shameful person. So it's resurfacing that shame that could be coming from something in the past. Things do seem sped up at this moment because your mind is now protecting you and wanting you to defend yourself. And essentially, it's any type of internal dialogue that is promoting that pressure and feeding that pressure to come out and protect yourself. If you're dissociating, I personally don't find dissociation so terrible in these moments because it could be slowing your response time. If that dissociative wall comes up, it does slow down what you're going to put through it. And until you have the breathing exercise and your response time slowed down, this wall can cause you to think about what you're going to do first, because it does kind of shut you off to being so threatened by the perceived danger. What could this be linked to? So after you're out of the situation, you can go back and you can think, okay, so what was that linking to from my past? What did that remind me of? Where was the last time or the earliest time that I felt this attack or this danger? So that's something that you can get a notebook and take note of this. When it's happening, you can try to mentally take note of it, but afterwards you can externalize it, write it down, and do some internal investigation on where this could be coming from.